the first thing I like to start out with is kind of like the tools of the trade sort of thing. You know, you already have your Eve client. That's how you're obviously going to actually FC a fleet. There are a lot of third-party tools which you can, should, or should not use for actually FCing to help you run better. Now, there's three main tools that I'm going to recommend that I consider as absolutely mandatory for any fleet commander to run a successful fleet. Now, the three of them are a screen capture tool, a descan tool, your pick. I don't really have one that I prefer more than any other. And the third is Dotlan. And if you haven't heard about Dotlan before today, I'm absolutely going to blow your brains. So, the first one that we're going to go about is pretty much a paste tool. So the easiest one that I know of is some just called paste anything, and it's nice because you don't have to differentiate what you're actually pasting into the Intel tool. Now I'm going to put that into Fleet there. Cool. So if you want to see how it works, basically click in the Fleet window itself, and then you hit Control A, which will select your entire list of fleet mates. Hit Control C, and then paste that into the box and hit Parse. Now, depending on what type of information you put into this, the tool will spit back information. So because we put in a list of names, it will tell us who's affiliated. So you see that there's, we only have one person from each corp, except for Sash, because that's me and Ibn. But so this is really a nice way if you're jumping into local. You know, you can hit Control A, copy, and you can at a glance it will summarize exactly how many neutrals, blues. Now for Spectre Fleet it doesn't really work because purples obviously. But if you know you're fighting against Pandemic Legion, for example, and you see 80 Pandemic Legions based on this descan tool, it can give you a really good advantage. If you actually do use this tool to use descan results, because after you hit descan, you can do the same thing. You can do Control A, copy it, and then paste it. If you do the same thing that way, it will give you, and it will sort ship type. So, if you have your scout, be like, hey, give me a descan of gate. Your scout takes a descan. He will normally link this into a paste like this, and then he can link you the short link to tell you exactly what he sees, which is fantastic because sometimes words just do not convey information fast enough. So you just be like, Scout, can I get a descan of? And when you say that, at least in most organizations, that would mean, give me a paste link. Don't tell me. Take the descan, paste it to me, so that I can have firsthand look at what we're going to be fighting. So that's the first tool. Pretty simple one. You can play around with it. There's a whole bunch of different ones. One of the big, I guess, things in Eve is that different people own the descan tools, and some of them have been proven to be intel gathering tools. I'm not actually sure if paste anything is a intel gathering tool, but for example, if you paste a descan with a Titan and it includes the system location, then it would send an email to the person who owns the tool. So you got to be careful about which tool you use because it can be used for intel gathering. But they are absolutely indispensable tools when used properly. So, if you're in an alliance, ask your alliance if they have a proprietary paste tool. But if not, Dashboard has worked absolutely fine for me, and I would definitely recommend it. Now, the second tool that I'm going to recommend is kind of like a series of tools, and there's a whole bunch of different versions of them. So there's Hyper Desktop, there's PushX, there's my least favorite of all of them, Gyazo, which everyone apparently loves, and then the one that I'm using is ShareX. And the reason you use a screenshot tool, it's probably a lesson on itself, but you need to be able to screenshot important information and share it in picture form because, again, a picture is worth 1,000 words. So, for example, if we're trying to catch a carrier, I need to know, somebody says it's on the POS, and I go, where on the POS? Well, it's three-dimensional space, it's pretty hard to describe. So if you can just take a screenshot tool of it, the faster the better, and you can share it. So, for example, I want to share with you the picture of my fancy stiletto. So I'm going to look at my stiletto, for example, and then I have my hotkeys set up, and I will take the screenshot of the stiletto, and by the time I'm done finishing this sentence, the screenshot tool should have uploads the picture to Imgur automatically, and then copies the Imgur link to my clipboard so that I can paste it directly into Fleet Chat. It's a way for you to share pictures on your screen through an Imgur link almost instantaneously. It's like 3 to 4 second delay. And the amount of times that this is used is unbelievable. It also allows you to save when people make idiots of themselves in Fleet Chat. You can just save little clips and keep them. Anyway, so the program that I would recommend is ShareX. It's really good. It's kind of a more feature intensive program than the other screenshot tools. If you want the simplest of the screenshot tools, I would recommend Hyper Desktop. But either way, if you are going to be getting into FCing, I would definitely recommend getting a screenshot tool. Absolutely, absolutely indispensable. The third tool, Dotlan. So this is Dotlan. Now I use it in an out-of-game browser. Um, However, you can use it in an in-game browser. However, what Dotlan is, it's a third-party website that provides tactical maps of the EVE Online universe. So if you, for example, if you hit F10 and try and look at the map, and you're gonna look at the star map, you're gonna be like, okay, it's all in 3 dimensions and stuff, and doesn't really give you that. Like, I don't know, it shows you a lot of cool stats and stuff, but all the menus are nested, and it doesn't give you information about the system. It's all clustered together. It's hard to read. I can see where I am, but it doesn't. Yeah, it's awful in terms of tactile. It looks pretty. This map itself is in the Museum of, what is it? The Museum of Modern Art. This map was like in a museum. Yeah. So tactical maps don't get in museums because things that are in museums are pretty, and tactical maps are useful, and they're not the same thing. So what we need is a map that is actually useful for what we're going to be doing. So because we're going to be going into the Providence region, I'm going to link you the Providence map. Just give me a second and I will link that up. There it is. And if you want to click on that one, you're going to see a map of Providence. Now I'm just going to make it on my screen. Now, the map is tactile. Nothing is overlaying itself, and it's all color-coded with pretty fancy stuff. So, on the very right side of the map, when you're looking at Providence, you're going to see Deedle, which is devoid. It's in a green box. Now, Deedle is one jump away from where we are right now, SS Gamma, and it is connected to Providence. That's why it's showing up there. You can see devoid, and if you look in the top left corner of your screen, we are currently in the devoid region. So this is how we know where we are. Right now, we are, for all intents and purposes, in Deedle, according to this map. We are in the Devoid region, which is connected to Providence through Deedle, so that's where we are. Now you're going to look at this, you're going to see a whole bunch of ovals. Some have blue lines around them, some are connected by purple lines, some by red lines. It might be confusing, but it's really quite simple. Each oval that you see on this map is a system. Inside of the actual system is its name and then whatever you have set to show up. So by default, it will show you security status. Okay, so it will show you the security status of the system. Now, maybe you don't give a shit about the security status. It helps if you're looking at high secs, you know where low sec and where low sec and where high sec is. If you're looking at a high sec region, then it's important to view it by security status. But for null sec, for example, maybe we don't care about the security status because a null sec system that is negative 0.5 is no different from a null sec system that is negative 0.8. Absolutely no difference. No difference at all. So this isn't that useful of a metric. Now, if you look at the top right corner, you're going to see 3 words. You're going to see search, you're going to see security, and you're going to see providence. Um, So search is obviously search bar. Don't use it. Nobody gives a shit. The second one is the drop down, and it's security. So what you need to do with that is change it to something that is actually going to be relevant. So what is a relevant metric that isn't security? We could pick sovereignty to see who actually lives in the nullsec regions that we're going to be going to. So if we flip that over, we can see that we're going to be going into a area of a space owned by Severance, which is the ticker -7-. And then you can see there's a couple other groups, ULI Federation, then there's a Sanctuary Pack, CVA, a whole bunch of different groups. Gun Fun Alliance, I think is who they are. But from experience, I know that these guys are all allied. But if I'm looking for a fight, maybe I want to go to different alliances, home systems, home constellations, try and find a fight there. Let's say, for example, that you guys are, trying to find targets. So you're a hunter. Now, Dotlan has this super sweet API integration which will tell you what's happening in these regions in, well, to the nearest 30 minutes live statistics. So you want to click on that sovereignty map, and you want to scroll to the very bottom, and you're going to click on NPC kills in the last 24 hours. Now, if you do this, you're going to see a couple systems light up with bright colors. Now, those colors are going to be, if we look at the Dotlan map, you're going to see a bright red spot in the bottom right corner. So that's 5 kg TAC PY. So we know that system has a lot of NPC kills, and a lot of NPC kills means a lot of people in PvE ships, which might be fun to kill or might be fun to disturb and provoke a PvP fleet response if that's what we're looking to do. And this will give us an idea where we're going if we want to, fight the locals, if we want to fight their Care Bears, anything like that. However, maybe that's not what we're looking for. Maybe we're looking for PvP, hot zones, places where PvP is actually happening, ships are dying, and for that we're not going to look at NPC kills 24, but we're going to look at ship pod kills 24. And as you can see, as a general rule, the ones that have a lot of NPC kills don't have a lot of ship kills, and vice versa. So, we look at the map again, and now the red spot has moved to the top right corner in YTEC MPWL. And that system is the hottest system in Providence. So if we want to go for a fight, if we want to find somebody to actually shoot who will shoot back, YTEC-M is probably the place that we actually want to go to. There's a few other things that will classify this. Like, we can see that YTEC-M is an entry system, so that it's likely going to be gate camped. It's a system that could possibly be gate camped, and we could verify that by looking at a kill board, for example. So all of this is for the purpose of intel gathering, because knowledge is strength when you're running a fleet, and it's very important to know these things. One last cool thing I'll show you about Dotlan, because I've probably rambled about it for too long, is that it has a delta function. So you saw that 5kg in the bottom right corner had a lot of NPC kills. Now, that was 24 hours. If we select NPC kills delta, it will show you whether the amount of kills is increased over the last hour or decreased. So when we look at 5kg and the system right next to it, 5TACD, we're going to see that the number of kills in the last hour has decreased, which probably means that people have stopped ratting there, or that it's decreasing, it's not their time zone. So if you wanted to find somebody ratting, we wouldn't look for the systems that had a high average NPC count. You have to look for something that has a high average as well as a green delta. So that means that somebody is currently ratting, or they have increased ratting, or they are just starting to rat. So if you're looking for average, or sorry, looking for things to actually kill, it's best to use the delta filter. Now there's a whole bunch of filters on here that you can play around with. I won't take up too long. The last thing I will mention is that the lines connecting the system, you'll see they're color coded. The standard is black.
Okay.
That is a system to system gate. So as you can see, our entry, Deedle, and then there's KBP7 at the right side of the map. KBP7 is connected to XHQ by a black line. That black line is a system-to-system gate, which has a very small radius. If we look at the jump after it, which is XHQ to YWSO, you can see that there is a red line connecting those two, which is a constellation to constellation gate. And finally, if you're looking at right above Deedle, you'll see ASA in Derelict. That is connected to GTAC5 by a purple line, which is a region-to-region gate. Now, if you didn't know this in EVE, the types of gates determine their size. So system-to-system gates are very small. Constellation-to-constellation gates are a little bit larger, and the largest gates are region-to-region gates. Why does this matter? It matters because of things like gate camping. So we're looking at YTEC-M. We see that there's a lot of kills in the entry system to the region, which makes sense. Kari is a high sec, YTEC-M is a null sec. It makes sense that, there would be combat in the first system to entry into null sec. However, we know that the entry system, because it's a region-to-region gate, is very large. People can spawn 40, 50 kilometers apart. If you're in Minmatar space, it's like 80 kilometers, across on the other side of the gate, which means it's a lot harder for an enemy force to catch you on that gate. Smart bombing is more difficult. Double caging that gate is more difficult. However, the gate after it, which you would obviously be going to, is the YTEC-M to D61A gate. That is a system to system. So if you were, looking out for a gate camp and you see YTEC-M, you can see that because there is a system to system gate there, it's likely that if there's a gate camp, they're going to be camping the smaller gate, not the larger gate. So there's a whole bunch of different things you can use Dotlan for, but most of you probably didn't know that the size of gates is related to whether it's a system, constellation, or regional connection. The next part of FCing is making sure that your client is set up. So we've dealt with the third party. We're kind of working our way backwards. We're going to work with the farthest thing that is farthest removed from Eve, and we're going to work our way back to actually playing Eve. Let's go ahead and undock and warp to the top asteroid belt. If you're wondering what I mean by the top asteroid belt, it's when you right click in the middle of space, you'll see a drop down menu. You go to asteroid belt, and then the top one in the list is the top asteroid belt. That's how we refer to it, not by an overview, because overviews can be sorted different ways. No matter what, the right click menu is always sorted in the same order, so we always use the right click menu to differentiate between what asteroid belt or object we're going to. So third belt would be, in this case, asteroid belt 5-2, not belt 3, something like that. Okay, so now what we're going to be doing is going over how to actually set up your overlays in space so that you can know what the fuck is going on. So I am going to screenshot for you the way that I play Eve, and I will link this to you in Fleet Chat. Okay, so now I have just proven to you the worth of a screenshot tool. I just shared my entire screen with you using an image. So what we're going to do is we're going to go clockwise around my entire screen. We're going to discuss absolutely everything on my screen, why I do it. Now, this is how I do it. This is not how you do it. I know mine is not optimal. It's, however, how I have learned and how I enjoy using it. The first, you guys are now looking at my setup and you're going, that's complete shit. And I'm fine with that. Honestly, I am. The biggest flaw with my setup is that you have local and fleet in the same window. So most people will tell you that it is absolutely mandatory for you to have local chat open at all times. Now, I get that. I understand that local is a valuable use of intel. However, for me as a fleet commander, local is a tool to be analyzed by my scouts. That is something that I delegate quite frequently. If you're doing solo PvP, this might not be the case. You may want to be dealing with local yourself almost the entire time. So this is like the big, people normally like freak the fuck out when they see this, that I have local and fleet in the same window. I don't give a shit. I use local to tell me how many people are in system. So, I will click on local. I will say, hey, look, 40 on system. I will flip back to fleet. That is the only thing I give a shit about local, is how many people are in system with me. And it's like 2 seconds to get that information. I do not need an entire window devoted to what inevitably devolves into complete spamming of links and shit and memes and local during fleets. I don't care. So that's the first thing that'll qualify. This is not a perfect setup. This is my setup. You're more than welcome to copy it. You're more than welcome to completely disregard it. But everything that you need to FC is in here somewhere. So the first thing that we're going to talk about is the HUD. I have mine stuck to the top, which some of you might have stuck to the bottom. I'd have it stuck to the top. I don't really care. The first thing that I would like to mention is that you see that out of the 5 little buttons on the left side, I have the top left one clicked. That is the tactical overlay. Now the tactical overlay is absolutely amazing. If you don't use this, I don't know how you use this. I found this in like my second day of playing Eve, and I've never gone back. I don't just use the tactical overlay when I'm FCing. I use it all the time because I've just gotten so used to it. It gives you a radius so that you can actually see, where things are, as well as if you have something selected on your overview, it will show little white bars connecting them from the ship, a horizontal plane of your tactical overlay, so you get a very quick reference of how far away that person and what position in depth and all of this. So this is an absolutely incredible resource because your overview alone does not give you information about where in three-dimensional space your enemies and your friendlies are. They only give you distance, and distance could be up, down, left, right. It could be all over the place. So you need to be able to actually look in space and see what the fuck is going on. So for this, tactical overlay, absolutely mandatory. Like, if you FC without using a tactical overlay, you're shooting yourself in the fucking face, and you're an idiot, and you should stop. So, tactical overlay, use it, love it, whatnot. The other really cool thing about the tactical overlay is you're like, am I in range? If you mouse over one of your modules, it will show you a sphere of that module range's activation. So you're an interceptor. I assume you have a point. Your tactical overlay should be on. Mouse over your warp disruptor or your warp scrambler, and you will see a different radius of sphere show up in space. So you can see, am I close enough to tackle that thing? There's probably easier ways. When you mouse over a bomb launcher, for example, it will give you a 15-kilometer radius sphere 30 kilometers away from the ship in the direction that you're pointing. That is absolutely incredible because you can't do area of effect at a distance any other way than using the tactical overlay when you mouse over your bomb launcher. So I have rambled over the tactical overlay way too fucking long, but it's super important to use it. Um, the next thing that I will point out is most people have passive modules hidden, and for interceptors, I usually don't give a shit. But there's a little button at the bottom right corner. There's like 4 horizontal lines. If you are going to be FCing, I highly recommend displaying passive modules because especially the higher level, longer fights, you'll be overheating. And if you have, for example, a shield hardener, or not, a shield extender and shield hardeners, and you overheat the shield hardeners, you have the possibility of burning out your extender, but not the hardeners themselves, which could leave you, having a lot less shield buffer than you thought you did. So, if you're FCing in anything that isn't a frigate, so this is kind of a special case, you definitely want passive modules shown. It's the only reason for it is, well, I guess, you can remind yourself what you're actually flying at a glance instead of just looking at your fitting window. But the big one is so that you don't burn out passive modules because heat damage is shared. So that is the big one. That is, it's got me killed a couple times having passive modules hidden. Okay. Um, I think that's it for the HUD. There's not really much to talk about that. Whether you like it at the top or the bottom, I don't care. I put it at the top, honestly, because all of my tables and stuff at the bottom, and everything that I use on the HUD is, hotkeyed. So we'll get to that in a bit. Moving around to the right, we have the directional scanner. Now, this is another thing that I'm extremely lazy about. You may set up your direction. I'm really bad with directional scanner. I will just preface this with I am really bad with directional scanner, and I use it only really to confirm what scouts are telling me. So if scouts are telling me, um, you know, 100 Slepters on scan, I'll just, descan and be like, yep, Slepters are there. So you don't have to have the descan window there. I can double it up as the probe scanner itself. That's a nice place for you to double since you don't need the probe scanner and the directional scanner at the same time, usually. But yeah, so I just keep it in the top right corner because directional scanner is a nice way to get intel. I'm assuming you guys know how the descanner works. I'm not going to go over it. The selected item overview, there isn't really much here. You've been playing EVE. I assume if this is not your first fleet in space, you know how the selected item overview tab works. However, there is one neat thing that I will teach you. Kazani, are you on comms? Kazani, in the Raptor. Speak up, yes, no?
He said kinda in
Kinda, he
fleet.
says.
Kinda? Okay, can you just burn away from me? I see you're already 100 kilometers away. Can you burn farther away from me? Farther, farther, farther away from me? I need you at least 150 kilometers away. Just burn away from me. Yes, good, good, farther away. So, I want you to click on Kazani in space. If you've got your tactical overlay on right now, he's the guy who is farthest away from you. Now, as you can see, while he is within 150 kilometers of you, you have a button that will allow you to approach him. However, don't warp to him. This will wreck the example. Good. Stop there, Kazani. Now, as you can see, after he goes past 150 kilometers, you lose the ability to approach something using the selected item tab. Now, this is fucked. I don't know why they do this. If something's 200 kilometers away, why can't you just approach it? If you're trying to chase something down like an interceptor at a ping, you have to double click in space repeatedly. Actually, no. They're lying to you. They just made their UI retarded, and you can still approach something farther than 150 kilometers away. And the way you do that is by holding Q. If you hold Q, and then click on something, it doesn't matter where it is, you will approach it. So, this is to tell you that the selected item tab is pretty much fucking useless. If you want to orbit at something and you're farther than 150 kilometers away from you, all you have to do is look at your selected item overview, right click the orbit button, even if it's grayed out, and then I'm going to type in 1 million, which is 1,000 kilometers, and now I have now a 1,000 kilometer default orbit. I hold W and I click Kazani, and now I am orbiting Kazani at 1,000 kilometers. You can't do this on the selected item overview. It's retarded, completely stupid. Like it's the worst designed anything in Eve, pretty much. So there's Q, W, and E. There's Q is approach, W is orbit, and E is keep at range. You use Q if you're chasing something down at a ping, or if you want to align to a ship that is your warping. For example, you have a scout and he's 500 kilometers away. You want to get your fleet aligning to him. All you have to do is tell your fleet, hold Q, click on your scout, and everyone will approach him, and then you can fleet warp, and then you guys don't get left behind, and you don't die in a fucking fire. So it's, for aligning fleets to scouts, or for chasing down hostile interceptors at a ping, you use Q. Your selected item overview is pretty useless. You should be using hotkeys. Hotkeys are super important. So QWE, cool, sweet, fantastic. On your overview, I'm going to skip this section because it probably could be a class of its own. We have a link to a default overview in the Spectre Fleet MOTD. It's Sarashawa's. Get it? It's good. It's maintained by a member of Pandemic Legion. It has way more tabs than you will ever use. Fuck around with it. Set up your own tabs.
Fleet.
The only thing that I would say is I would definitely recommend having one of your main overview tabs having both hostiles and friendlies on it. If you're so for example, my main tab will show both friendlies and hostiles. However, I have two overviews completely dedicated to just hostiles. And the reason is your overview also dictates what your screen loads. So in big fights, you need to have an overview that is no ships, no drones, no cans, no wrecks, nothing. You cannot have that shit on your overview, or your client has to load it. And in huge like 2,000 man fights, which might be a little ways away for you if you're still if you're still beginning to FC, still I would definitely recommend having at least one overview that has nothing but hostile ships on it. No drones, no wrecks, just hostile ships. It will make your life way better. So now I can see you're all floating way the fuck off into space, and I'm going to show you a neat command that you probably didn't know existed.
FC, why do we have a pod?
I don't know. Must have got concorded.
I'm
This always
criminal.
happens.
I can't join in a ship right now.
That's fine. You're more than welcome to listen in. If you just noticed, I think it says regrouping on Aristo Moon, or what does it say? Regrouping. Does it say my ship name?
Orbiting not FC.
Okay,
300 meters.
I will change my ship name then.
Well, I used WSD piloting at the Fighter Warrior recently.
Okay, so I hit regroup. Now, this is a neat command that I'm only showing you here because I don't know why it's anywhere else. If you want to know where this command is, it's on the fleet window, and it's if you click on the little 4 horizontal lines, it's the third option on the menu, regroup. Now, this is such a strange command. It is the only command in the entire client that allows you to take over control of another person's ship. When you press this command, anyone in your squad, wing, or fleet will regroup on you, and regroup in the definition of Eve is orbit at 500. Problem is it doesn't discriminate. If you have a scout, he's also going to be regrouping on you. So I'm telling you it's there, and I'm also telling you never to use it because it's never useful in a tactical situation. That's the overview. Okay, now at the bottom of my screen, I have two tabs things. One is watch list, one is inventory. Neither of these are mandatory. I have them there because there's space, I guess. Watch list is super important, but it doesn't have to be there. Another place that it could be is right beside your selected item overview tab, beside your overview, and I'll screenshot what that looks like to you. Okay, 3, come on, load. Cool, that's what it looks like. So the idea, the way that I've set up my screen, is that you want everything that you're actually going to be clicking on in one place so that your mouse doesn't have to move all over the fucking screen. So we have your D-scan, your watch list, your selected item overview, and your overview. Those are the things you actually click on. Anything that's on the left side of my screen is things like intel, broadcasts, things like that, things that are mostly information. Now, I'm the FC. If you're an actual DPS guy and you're clicking on broadcasts, cool. But while you're at the FC, you don't actually interact with the broadcast window that much. You send the broadcasts to that window. You don't interact with it. So if you're like, Jane, but you click on... No, you don't. You're the FC now. You don't click on broadcast. You broadcast. So I don't really care where you put your watch list, but it's super important it's there. Limitations on the watch list: in order to see if somebody actually has HP, you have to be on the same grid as them, and you can only have 15, and it is lagged. It is not instantaneous. So if you see somebody at half armor on your watch list, they're likely already dead. Yeah, watch list, the only thing I really use watch list for is scouts, to have easy warpins for scouts and know who my scouts are at a glance. The big thing about having somebody on watch list is you can interact with their ship off the watch list in the same way you could using an overview tab. Okay, everybody warp to the bottom belt. Okay, moving along to the bottom left side of my screen. I have 2 windows that actually matter. I have 5 there, Alliance Corp, Spectre Fleet. Those 3 don't matter. The 2 that matter are Fleet and People in Places. Now, Fleet is useful because you talk to your fucking fleet there. And you can right click on people who are in your fleet, you can see in your fleet a whole bunch of shiny things. I shouldn't have to tell you what to do with this fleet window. It's a fleet window, you talk to your fleet through it. The one that's important behind it is People in Places. Now, this is a window that a lot of people don't have open all the time. However, I really, really, really think they should. It's super important. So there's a couple things. If you have your People in Places open right now, you'll see search string. Now, search string is automatically how you find things. So a lot of people I know will link systems by typing them into chat, right-clicking and trying to auto-link them. You should be really using the People in Places search string because it's way easier to find things. It will search for everything simultaneously. It's just better. Use it. The next big thing about People in Places is bookmark folders, which is something that a lot of people don't know about. So if you have folders in your bookmarks, I want you to, in the People in Places menu, I want you to double click on it. If you didn't know this happened, it will open up a new window that you can move around in space. That is a folder specifically for bookmarks. So if you are using a system in space where you're doing a lot of camping, you have a lot of pings, you've set up pings on a POS in advance, you want to have this out in space permanently so you know which menu to go to so you don't have to fiddle fuck in right-click menus all the goddamn time. So the big use of People in Places is to sort your bookmarks and allow you to detach a bookmark folder from your bookmarks. It's double use. You can also add a location here in space by hitting the add location button. However, hotkeys, Control B is way better. So if you hit Control B right now, you'll see new location, spot in SS Gamma solar system. Now you did not bookmark when you hit Control B, you bookmark when you hit submit. So neat. That's just another hotkey thing. I love hotkeys. You're going to learn to love hotkeys too. The next thing, okay, so that's People in Places and Fleet. We've only got one part of the window left, and that is where the magic happens, the Fleet window. Now there's a few things here. Because we're a public fleet, we don't deal with Fleet Finder. If you deal with Fleet Finder because you're Alliance, talk to somebody who fucking deals with it because I don't give a shit. I never have used it. I don't like it. Now there's 2 main things here. There's the main Fleet window, which you can see, and because I'm just going to skip. You're not going to be using links for a long time. I'm going to ignore the links discussion. The important thing to know is pretty much who can warp who. Squads can warp members of their squads, wings can warp member of their wings, fleets can warp the entire fleet, the fleet commanders can warp the entire fleets. So just know who is in charge of warping you. If you do not want to be warped, there's this neat little button at the 4 horizontal lines by the actual fleet tab. You click that and you hit flag exempt from fleet warp. If you want to confirm that that happened, you will see kind of like a 3 red triangle shit fucking things because their UI design is amazing. Thanks, CCP. You can see it on Aristo Moon. I have like those red triangles. That just means that I am not involved with fleet warps. This is super important for positions like scouts, probers, warp-ins. You need to have these, especially Titans. Titans and bosses, oh my god. Oh, it's ISD. Everybody wave to ISD and local. So, for example, if you're running a covert ops fleet, for example, and you have, absolutely made this perfect warp-in for your squad, bombers themselves, the bomber pilots themselves, will be using squad and wing warp skid in position, and if you do that, your prober's fucking coming with you. So there are a lot of reasons why you don't want your fleet warps, for example, to happen. The one that will happen the most often is when you are fighting somebody with a sniper doctrine. For example, if you've been on any of my longbow fleets, you know that we fight at range and we warp in and out quite a bit. However, I require eyes on grid whether we leave, disengage, or whatnot. However, to leave the fight, I use fleet warps. So that's to make sure that I don't leave anybody behind, that anybody who's not paying attention, that had their cat jump on their lap, don't hold their light on fire, I don't really care. Whatever it is, I need to warp their ship for them. However, if I have, scouts at pings who are, trying to get me eyes or warp ins, I don't want them to leave the grid because that gives them the hassle of getting back on grid, having to contest with bubbles, and trying to get me more eyes. So there are a lot of reasons why you want to use flag exempt from fleet warp. You as a fleet commander will not want to use it because if you are flagged exempt from fleet warp and you give the fleet warp command, you're leaving yourself behind. Don't do it. It's not funny. It's happened. I died. Okay, so now that's my fleet and the fleet. We get to go into the deep menus. This is where the magic happens. So, if we click, we're going to see a whole bunch of things. I already showed you regroup. If I click regroup, it will just, you will orbit me at 500 meters. That's all that happens. Don't ever use that in the middle of a fleet. You'll piss off a lot of people. The ones below that is unset free move, set voice enable, broadcast, doesn't really matter. The next one that really matters is broadcast settings. If you open that up, you're going to see a tab with check marks and boxes and arrows and names. The ones that you need to have checked vary on what you actually want to do in their feed. There's a lot of unnecessary broadcasts that you should probably filter out. The ones that I keep as an FC is target, warp to, align. There's a few other. You can have like fleet event or things here. But I don't really care how detailed or how skimpy you really want to do. You obviously need target broadcast because you want at a glance to know that your broadcasts are being sent to the rest of the fleet, as well as I like to have warp to and align broadcast because I use those. And the only reason I want to see my own broadcast is to make sure that I broadcasted the right align or warp point. And the one big thing I will tell you is that you should color code these. I don't really care. It's your life. You do you, I'll do me. Color code your broadcasting so you can see at a glance what the fuck is happening. One of the great things is that if you're an FC, for example, and you want to see how your fleet is doing, you can enable armor. And for example, I have target broadcasts as green, and I have armor broadcasts as red. And if at a quick glance I see more green than more red, I'll keep fighting because it knows that I am at least broadcasting more targets than friendlies are broadcasting for armor, and that's usually a good sign. If you see a fuck ton of red, probably means you're all dead. And why are you looking at a broadcast window in the first place? But colors are just super. If you're flying Logi, a big bright yellow, be like, oh shit, this guy needs cap, not armor. Whereas before a broadcast, you might just lock him up and give him armor, and when he actually wanted capacitor. So, the two things I will harp on every FC is that you need to have broadcasts color coded and everything you possibly fucking can hotkeyed. Now, on hotkeys, I want you guys 3, 2, 1, broadcast. For shield or armor, I don't care which it is, broadcast. If you haven't broadcast by now, which is 90% of you, you're fucking dead. You're dead. In massive fleet fights, it is 1 to 2 seconds you have before, if you don't get reps, you're fucked. Your survival in a fleet is very, very rarely dependent on how much logic you have, on how much DPS you have. The survivability of your ship is vastly, vastly more influenced by how fast you can broadcast. And the little tiny fuck off broadcast buttons at the bottom of the fleet window don't fucking cut it. So you hit escape, you go to shortcuts, and then you go to navigation, and you're going to see a whole bunch of fucking broadcasts. What you need to do is you need to set either your broadcast needs shield or your broadcast needs armor to something memorable to the point where if somebody punched you in the face right before you needed to broadcast for armor, you could still do it. That's how obvious it needs to be. I use middle mouse button because even when I'm panicked and there's shit going on my screen, I know middle mouse button means fucking save me, and I will mash the shit out of that. I'll be like, oh my god, save me. Set it to something. I don't give a shit what it is. You need to set it to something. So set it now. Use shield for all I care. I don't really, you don't have to have a different one for armor and shield. Set one. If you're doing an armor fleet, fucking change it to armor. You have one button that means broadcast, give me something, please. Like right fuck now. So, now that you guys have all set your hotkey, you are being shot, broadcast for shields. Better? Most of you are still shit. It's okay, we'll get there. So, this is something that I tell every fleet, not just an FC class. Every fleet that I am going out on, I absolutely make it mandatory for everyone to be able to broadcast for reps within 3 seconds. Because honestly, it's a skill that we don't teach for some reason. New players very rarely know about anything other than, broadcast for shield, here's the button. In the middle of fight, it takes a new person probably 3 to 4 seconds to realize they're being shot. Okay, which one do I click? You look at the you look at the broadcast buttons, they're like 2 millimeters large, and they're all weird fuck off symbols. The shield one's pretty obvious. Which one's the armor? The armor fucking broadcast button is actually the icon for structure. What the shit is that? So just hotkey the shit. Save yourself the trouble. Yeah, that's that. Next one on the list. Yes, my favorite, which is the magic. So it's the show fleet composition window. Now this is when I found out this window existed. Holy shit, my life changed. So I'm going to screenshot what this window looks like for me currently. If you are in a squad position, squad commander position right now, you can do this for your own squad. However, if you are just a normal squad member, you can't currently see this. So I've screenshotted it, used my fancy fucking screenshot tool, which you all should have downloaded already. You can look at what I'm seeing. Now, the really fucking sweet thing about this is it will tell you everyone's name, everyone's location, their ship type, their ship group, their fleet role, their fleet skills, and their fleet position. Fleet skills one is the pretty fucking cool one. So if you need somebody to be a wing commander, you're like, okay, who in fleet is wing commander? You don't fucking ask that question. You find out, you put them in the fleet, and there's no fucking questions asked because you're in charge.
How long
And
has
they
that
can.
skill's been around for?
How long is what?
Showing the skills. How long has that been for?
That has existed since I've been SCing, so 2.5 years at least.
Really?
Yeah,
As long
pretty
as I
cool.
remember it ever being
It's a
there.
very, very
Yeah.
long time.
So pretty cool. But you can use it to catch spies. Hey, look, somebody. This only occurs to public fleets, but oh, look, somebody's still in Jita. You can reference comms to names using fleet composition. You can see, is your fleet spread up? Is your fleet ready to depart? What is your fleet composition? This is so important. Do I have enough logistics? When a fleet commander says, hey guys, I don't have enough logi, they're not asking everyone in the fleet, are you a guardian? Are you a guardian? Good, we have 9 guardians. No, you look at this. You sort by group type. Hey, look, fucking 12 people on my list, and this will export to an Excel file. We talk about spreadsheets online, we joke about it. This shit exports to Excel. Yeah, it fucking exports to Excel. So yeah, I'm gonna grab a drink. After this, I'm pretty sure I'm done my incredibly long rant about how to set up for fleet commanding, and we're actually gonna run this fleet.